Hi guys, this is Dan from Magic Pachinko Restorations with another short video on a vintage Pachinko machine. When I first started doing these videos, it was primarily for the new owner of the machine, but then once I started posting them and realized there were a bunch of people out there that just like to watch the videos to learn something and see the machines, it's become almost more for you guys than it is for the new owner. But at any rate, if you are the new owner of this machine, you can fast forward a little bit to the area where I show you how to set it up. This is a new Jin machine, not one of the more prolific builders of Pachinko machines in its day, but again in the mid 70s. Unfortunately, there's another sticker right over the top of the where the Showa year would be, so I'm not 100% sure, but it's got to be a mid 70s machine. That's where the vast majority of the machines that we work on come from, is the mid 70s. So this was done with a complete restoration. Everything is taken off, everything is dealt with, nails pulled, rails pulled, new play field, so on and so forth. Now this is, I want to show you the old play field and maybe talk just a little bit about this. If you can see that, that was the old play field, and you can see even on the back, you can see the darkness up in here. This is all water damage, and again, this is all permanent. This won't come off. So if you take a look at the colors, you can see that the colors are very, very different on this. And the main reason that they're different is because it's 50 years old of fading. They change over time. So when you make a new playfield, the gentleman that makes them, he does his best to bring the playfields back to their original colors. And unfortunately, we get into discussions about playfields where owners remember their machines in this condition. They don't remember them in the original condition. And sometimes they say, well, I want it to look original to me, and my job my thought about it is I want to make it original to the way it came out of the factory. So that's why you'll see the difference in the colors. This is a very much darker green, almost to the point where it looks black. And I mean, the yellows transfer real well, the blues transfer real well. The reds and the greens usually get darker than they were on the machines. I don't know if it's just because whoever does these believes they were originally much darker, and my guess is that's the case, because if you take, I don't think you can see it on this, yeah, you probably can't see it, but if you were to take this tulip off in 20 years, you would see the really dark green under where the tulip covered it versus the darker green that was out exposed to light. And I know that's the way Bill tries to reset colors, is the way they used to look, and he gets that from looking underneath things and seeing. So that's what that's all about. We just hope that everybody's happy with the new colors and so on and so forth. So again, complete restoration, everything gets cleaned. This machine had a lot of pluses and minuses for me as a restorer. Some of the pluses on this machine, there are screws here that hold the guts on. Screws come out, guts come off. That's a wonderful thing for me as a restorer, rather than having to try to pry all of these pieces that have been stapled to the board. So definite plus. The screws here in the front, I don't know if you noticed, but they're a little bigger than they appear on most Pachinko machines. And when you pull one of these out, instead of it being, about that long, it's about that long. And what it does is it goes all the way through this frame right into the board. So you notice there's no screws back here running the screws through the board into the frame. It's through the frame into the board. So much easier, because obviously it's screws, not nails. You don't have to pry it apart. So those were definite pluses. Minus on this machine, there was no electrical system on it whatsoever. So I'll tell you what I did up here in a minute. I have no idea what this is functionally. I mean, I know what it does. I just don't know why it's there. If you're going to do a ball dump, and I guess some balls may be up in here, you can go like that, and it would kick the balls out. I don't know what was going on here either. I don't know if there was a counterweight up in there or not, but it was a weak spot. It was broken when we got the piece. Super glue is a wonderful thing, but I wouldn't touch this, and this is now for the new owner. I just wouldn't touch this at all. It's nothing that you would ever need to do anyway. So I'm not quite sure about that. Also, up in here, the jackpot arm goes up and down on this, and there's a wire here that's going to lift up and hit that micro switch. Let me see if I can get it in for you. Okay. It's going to hit that micro switch, or not micro switch, leaf switch, and make the contact and turn the lights on. So that's the jackpot light. And I remember this from other machines, and I happen to have this and this already wired up, so I said, well, that'll fit right in there perfectly. Now, what I couldn't quite figure out is how they would have had a ball out light in this system, because normally when the machine is empty and there's no weight on this piece, the default is that it's up. So if there were a switch here, it would lift off the switch and allow the leaves to separate. When the balls came in, it would push down on this and close the switches. This one's reversed. This is like it's got balls in it all the time. So I couldn't figure out how to put a switch on it that said there weren't. So what I did is, rather than having only one jackpot light, I wired in a second light. So now when the jackpot goes off, there's two lights up in there, which is kind of nice. And usually a ball out light isn't even necessary for home use. Okay, so pluses, minuses. This one drove me absolutely out of my mind for quite a while. It would not pay out a jackpot consistently. When you get into a situation like that, you start to troubleshoot, and you look at all the moving parts, and when you rebuild these things, the most important thing you want to do is make sure there's no resistance at all anywhere, because if there is, it won't work like the way it's supposed to. So I just kept tearing the covers off and looking and doing this and doing that and all sorts of stuff. And at one point, it was like an explosion went off, and all of a sudden, all the balls were just cascading. I had this cover off, were cascading down into this area, and what the heck did I do? So as I got the balls out, I found a white piece of plastic, broken white piece of plastic. That's never a good thing. What ended up happening, get this cover off real quick. And this is one cover I don't like real well. It doesn't want to come off as easily as I think it should. Okay, so at any rate, right here in the jackpot, this piece right here, this opens and closes, and there's a piece of metal attached to it, and it's what holds the balls in until the jackpot triggers, and then this opens and lets the balls out. Well, it's a metal piece, but it's bolted through a plastic piece. And evidently over time, that plastic piece weakened. And eventually with the testing and the prodding and the poking, it let go and broke into two pieces. And those two pieces and the metal piece all dropped down inside. So fish it all out. And again, super glue is a beautiful thing. So it's super glued back, and I've been playing with this thing quite a bit. It's running just fine. So now that we've talked about Pachinko for the Pachinko lovers, we're going to switch kind of to the section that's for the new owner. If you notice up here, there's a pigtail hooked up to the power block, and you're going to get a 12 volt wall transformer in a little white box. Looks like this. You just plug it into the wall and then plug this into the pigtail. And this will power, in your case, the two jackpot lights. And they only turn on when this moves up. And I think you can see that they're on now. You'll see them from the front. So they're not going to be on all the time. They're only on when the jackpot is actually won. So you should have at least 500 pachinko balls. And what you're going to start out with is just a handful. Now, most of the time I warn people about the ball dump. Like on an Nisogen, make sure the ball dump is set. This is one of the kinds of machines that the default is that the ball dump is set properly. You have to move the ball dump to get it to dump the balls out. So when you drop a handful of balls into the jackpot area, or the upper tray, you should be able to watch them flow across the upper feed, into the turnaround, across the lower feed, and then down into the jackpot. So you should see balls on either side of the jackpot, and that's where they stop. So once you've thrown a couple of handfuls in, and you know they're flowing the way they should, that's when you will then take the vast majority of the pachinko balls you own. Again, you should have 500. And you just really only need a handful to get started. So you will need something that's wide enough from here to here, because this is where the balls exit the machine. And the parlors, they would have just dropped out into a chute and run down to a central collection central collection area. So for home use, you do need something that will catch them, and anything will do. So now that we have the machine properly loaded, a handful of balls in the upper feed tray and start to launch balls. Now, on the first time, it won't launch a ball. It takes a cycle to get in. And when you want to get used to putting your fingers under here, bringing the launch handle all the way down, then letting go, and that will launch a ball. Now, you need to be able to launch balls ideally so that they fall down through the middle. But there are times when these tulips will be open and you want to get balls to drop down through here, and there are times when you want to be able to drop the balls down through here. So it's just a matter of how much tension you put on this before you let go, and you'll get used to being able to kind of control it. And I just put one right down the middle. So the wind, double lights, and it will open, as it comes down through here, it will open various tulips. And when the tulips are open, it's a much easier target to get a ball into. Down the middle. So that's the mid-70s new gin, Pace 15. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Put a handful of balls in the upper feed tray and start to launch balls. Now, on the first time, it won't launch a ball. It takes a cycle to get in. And when you want to get used to putting your fingers under here, bringing the launch handle all the way down, then letting go, and that will launch a ball. Now, you need to be able to launch balls ideally so that they fall down through the middle. But there are times when these tulips will be open and you want to get balls to drop down through here, and there are times when you want to be able to drop the balls down through here. So it's just a matter of how much tension you put on this before you let go, and you'll get used to being able to kind of control it. And I just put one right down the middle. So the wind double lights, and it will open, as it comes down through here, it will open various tulips. And when the tulips are open, it's a much easier target to get a ball into. Going down the middle. So that's the mid-70s new gin, Pace 15. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.